Okey, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah pada minggu ini kita bertemu sekali lagi dalam sesi Weekly Booster 15M, dan bagi yang pertama kali mengikuti sesi ini 15M Weekly Booster 15M ini merujuk kepada sesi yang kita wujudkan untuk menggalakkan sesi perkongsian membaca di kalangan wanita terutama-tamanya. Tapi sekiranya adalah muslimin ataupun lelaki yang ingin berkongsi buku, tidak mengapa, boleh je berikan nama kepada Suri Membaca. Tadi pada malam ini, tanpa melengahkan masa, kita bersama-sama dengan Razeen Rom. Hai Razeen, lama tak jumpa.
Hai Mat.
Okey, sebelum kita pergi kepada sesi perkongsian buku ini, saya akan memperkenalkan Razeen dahulu. She's obtained bachelor degree in actuarial science from Heriot-Watt University, Edinburgh. She also has master degree in financial statistics from London School of Economics and Political Sciences, LSE. She's currently looking at macro surveillance of the Malaysian financial system at Bank Negara Malaysia. She's mother of two, and obviously she's my friend. So for tonight, we're going to talk about Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. So probably, Razeen, before we start to delve into the book, would you mind sharing who is Carol Dweck and why she wrote that book, if she ever explained in that book? Please, Razeen.
Thank you, Imat. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for having me here this evening. It's really an honor to be able to share with you a book that I personally find life-changing. So to start it off, let me just share with you a brief introduction about the author of the book, Mindset. So she is Professor Carol Dweck. She is currently a professor in psychology at Stanford University. But prior to Stanford, she taught at several other prestigious universities. So I think it was Columbia, Harvard, and also University of Illinois. As a psychologist, her primary research interests are in motivation, personality, and development. So specifically for this book, she was actually asking questions on why some children embrace challenges, but why some other children avoided challenges. So she was, it was very intriguing to her. So she was trying to answer this question. And related to this, she was also trying to answer the bigger question: what determines successes and achievements? So ultimately, that was the research that she did with her team, and that became the bread and butter of this book, Mindset. And I think this entire research spanned decades. It was a very big exercise, and the experiments that came with it was in large scales. So it was pretty interesting, this book. And I think this book is being quoted, many times by leaders across the world. And I can see why after having read it. So that's about it on Professor Carol Dweck.
Thank you, Razeen. You mentioned just now this book is a life-changing book to you. So probably you can share a bit how you come across this book and what are the main things discussed by Carol Dweck in Mindset.
Okay, so how I stumbled upon this book is actually, it was actually a coincidence. I wasn't actively looking for a self-help book at that time, but I saw a friend of mine who's also a colleague of mine. She posted about this book on her social media, and I just went up to her and asked if I could borrow it because the title seems so, compelling. It's Mindset. It's a very simple concept, but I wanted to know more about it, so I just went up to her and borrowed her book. But it got me from the first chapter itself. And the reason why it got me was because I could relate to a lot of the things that she mentioned in that book. I'm like, oh my God, this is familiar. So I was very engaged, basically, from the first chapter onwards. Maybe, as I go along, sharing with you the gist of the book, I'll also share with you what are my reflections on some of the things as we go along. But before that, let me just put a little caveat here that I am not in any way an expert in this. So I'm just, sharing with you what I read from the book, and any further reflections or commentaries, they are purely of my own observation and my own experience. Okay, so Mindset, what is it about? So if you can go to the next slide, please. Can we move to the next slide? So I prepared some slides just to assist us with just to help us follow the discussion a bit more closely. Okay, perhaps I'll just go ahead. Yep. So while that's being that's being resolved. Thank you so much. Okay, so basically, this book is all about the two types of mindset: fixed versus growth mindset. So basically, a fixed mindset. So a person with a fixed mindset, they believe intelligence is something that is innate and cannot be changed. While a person with a growth mindset, they believe intelligence is something that can be developed. So this is the ultimate definition or concept of these two mindsets. If I can quote directly what Professor Carol Dweck mentioned in one of her interviews with the media. So she said, when students had more of a fixed mindset, and that is the idea that abilities are carved in stone, that you have certain amount of intelligence and that's it, they saw challenges as something risky. They could fail and their basic abilities would be called into question. So when they hit obstacles, when they get setbacks or criticism, this was just a proof that they didn't have the abilities that they cherished. But on the other hand, when students had a more of a growth mindset, they held the view that talents and abilities could be developed and that challenges were actually the way to do it. So learning something new, something hard, and sticking to doing that, that's how you get smarter. So setbacks and feedback, they are not about your abilities, but they are about information that you could use to help you learn. So with growth mindset, they believe, everyone can develop their abilities through hard work, strategies, and lots of help and mentoring from others. So these are, quoting directly from what Professor Dweck mentioned, which I thought, was really informative in the definition. So if we can go to the next slide. So here we are looking at, what are the attributes of a person with a fixed mindset.
Can we move to next?
Okay, thank you. So, whoops. All right. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, so basically, a person with a fixed mindset. If you look at the list that is being shared there, so a person with a fixed mindset, they avoid challenges, they give up easily, they see effort as pointless, they don't like to hear constructive criticism, they don't accept them, and they actually feel threatened by successes of others. Yeah. So when I was reading this, I was like, hang on. Some of these actually look very, very familiar, and I can't help but to notice that I tick a lot of these boxes, unfortunately, and suddenly everything makes sense. Like in hindsight, it makes sense why I did and why I did not choose certain things. It was like a revelation, a discovery about myself. Okay, I'll get more into that as we go along, but let's see what are the traits of someone with a growth mindset. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So someone with a growth mindset, so it's really the opposite of someone with a fixed mindset. They embrace challenges, they persist in the face of obstacles, they actually value putting in effort because they believe effort is a path to mastery. They welcome and they accept constructive criticism because that's how they learn, and they feel inspired and learn from other people's success stories. So when I was reading this, I was like super convinced, and the reason why I was convinced is because I reflected on this, and I actually do have some real life examples of people with growth mindset, and they are flying really high. And when I sat down and tried to put two and two together, it makes a lot of sense. Because these people,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps, they may not even have that skills in the first place, but they are not afraid to learn. They just, do it. And if they fail, they just learn again. Um, and scientifically, there is a reason why people can get smarter if they work hard. And this was also mentioned in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this, I thought this was something that really caught my attention, because I think I am an evidence-based person. So I just don't simply believe in things, but there is a scientific research behind this. So basically, I think it's called neuroplasticity. So it's basically the science behind growth mindset. It's the reason
Mm-hmm.
why we can develop skills and knowledge through effort, practice, and also persistence. So when you learn things, right, your brain sends messages from one neuron to the other. And we have, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, billions of trillions of neurons. So if you keep learning, and if you keep doing things in enough times, your brain actually makes a stronger connection, a
Mm-hmm.
strengthened connection or path between these neurons. And this makes, activities easier, and you can do them better and better.
Mm-hmm.
So work hard actually makes you smarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, this was a revelation to me. Because, in a way, I feel very motivated, because now I know that, oh, my intelligence is not carved in stone. I mean, I've been working hard. I think I work quite hard lah, since I was a student. But this was the next level, because I was also going through some, I would say, challenges, at work, for example. And this really motivated me that I could still grow, no matter
Mm-hmm.
at what age we are, at what stage we are in life, there is still potential for us to grow.
So
And
long as you don't stop learning, right?
yeah, we never stop learning, and your brain will never stop developing, and it will never stop growing as long as you continue learning and doing things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, okay. If we can go to the next slide, please.
So Razin,
Oh yeah.
will this fixed and growth mindset just applicable to? Oh, you just moved today. I'm about to ask: is this applied to also something beyond works and also beyond study? So probably you can share a little bit more.
Yep. It is. The short answer is it is, and in fact, it's applicable to anything. So in the book, Mindset by Professor Dweck, she actually explicitly mentioned four areas, which I
Mm-hmm.
will touch a little bit on. The areas that she touched on was parenting, relationships, working environment, and also sports. And parenting, it's got to do with education in general. I
Mm-hmm.
would look at it that way. So perhaps among the viewers there are also parents here. So there's one parenting tip from the book that I thought is really, really, really important for us to talk here. So basically, we can embed growth mindset in
Mm-hmm.
raising our children, and it manifests in how we speak to them.
Mm-hmm.
Our choice of words. What do we tell them? What kind of messages are we trying to send across to them? So one important thing is the way we praise them. So I think as parents, we tend to praise our children. That's how we reassure them. We give them confidence, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
so we thought. So what's important is for us to instill the growth mindset is to praise efforts and choices. Praise the processes, the strategies, the effort that's being put in, not the intelligence and talent. So I'm going to give some examples on this. Again, this is also taken from the book and from my research of what Professor Dweck shared in her presentations and interviews. So basically, let's say your child came to you and your child successfully solved a puzzle. So we may want to avoid saying, brilliant, you're so clever. So that is actually praising intelligence, because you're telling your child you're so clever.
Mm-hmm.
And what the child really heard is really, oh, okay, I'm so clever. If I don't solve the puzzle next time, I am
Ever.
not clever. Yeah, so that's essentially what they're hearing, the message that we send across to them. So it could lead to them avoiding more difficult puzzles. or in general challenges, because they know if they can't solve the more difficult puzzles, then they will not be seen as smart. So, instead, perhaps our responses could be something along the line, I can see that you worked really hard on the puzzle. You tried to apply different strategies and you did not give up. Well done. So it's really surfacing the processes, the strategies being put in, the effort being put in. So they know what essentially matters. It's not about you being smart or dumb. No, it's about you putting in effort, and that's how you progress. So another
And that's
example.
how they think, that's going to train how they think onwards, right? What they,
True. Yes. So another example, so it's the opposite of the first one. It's about failure. So let's say your child come to you with a failed math test. So how do you react to that? So, as parents, probably we automatically we want to reassure our child, so we say things like, oh, don't worry, you may not be good in math, but you are good in some other things. These are some of the things that we tend to say. So that is a fixed mindset kind of response, because what you're saying is really, um, I'm not good in this, and perhaps I will never be. So instead, a growth mindset response or reassurance is something that enhances learning. So one way to respond, one example would be, okay, what is this teaching us? Where should we go next? Should we talk to your teacher about how we should learn this better? So these are the kind of responses that can actually instill the growth mindset in them. So they will actually come to understand that abilities can be learned and it can be developed, especially when we tell them, okay, how can we learn this better? What should we do next for us to do it better next time? So there is that future prospect that they can do better if we find out what are the things that we need to do now. So yeah, so I thought that was, again, super mind-blowing. And it really, really changed how I consciously speak to my children. And not just children, it's applicable to, like, anybody. Yeah. So I will touch also a bit on the other areas of growth mindset. So if we can move on to the next one, which I think is on relationships. Yep. So basically, in any relationship, so a person with a growth mindset, they believe that relationship qualities can be changed, can be developed, and that individuals in that relationship, including ourselves, are actually on a learning curve. So once we have that mindset, it solves a lot of, I wouldn't say solve, but it avoids a lot of ill feeling.
Reduce dispute in the relationship, right?
Yes, exactly. And I mean, we can still be sad. We are still entitled to be sad or heartbroken or whatnot. But instead of, it breaks us, it actually makes us look from the perspective of, okay, what can I learn from this experience? Yeah. So how do we move forward from here? What are the things that, I can learn and change from this experience? So it's really powerful in that sense. Yeah. And again, this growth mindset concept is obviously, is very much applicable at the workplace. So some of us here, we may be, I don't know, supervisors, or we're leading a team. So what's important is for us to actually provide that growth mindset environment. And how do we do this? First of all, we need to make it very clear that skills are something that is learnable. And every time when we speak to the team or when we give feedback to them, it's in a way that promotes learning and give them the future prospects that progress matters, and it is the not yet instead of fail. And also, as the leader, we have to also make it clear that we value learning and perseverance. So probably, I don't know, practically speaking, it could be difficult to implement this at the organizational level, but in our own within our own space, the space that we can control, like in our own team, for example, or for the people that we supervises. So these are
Mm-hmm.
the things that we can implement, and this is not just good for their own learning curve, but it will give us results as well.
Mm-hmm.
So Professor Dweck, in some of her experiments, she actually did many experiments with a team, but the notable ones are really on students. So she actually went to some rural schools, so the schools that was at the bottom of the district in terms of ranking, and these
Mm-hmm.
are schools for the Native Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually did some intervention program at that school, and that intervention program specifically is related to the growth mindset. So they taught the teachers on how to teach and provide that environment related to growth mindset. So I think
Mm-hmm.
after like 1.5 years or something around that timeline, the school emerged from the bottom of the rank to the top of the ranking, and this was in Seattle, and they actually outbeat the more like prestigious school. So
Wow.
that was pretty, yeah, that was mind blowing, because it took time. It took like more than a year, but it worked. And I'm sure it's also challenging to train the teachers and all that, but it yield results in the end.
Mm.
So I guess,
Interesting.
yeah. So what I understood from Professor Dweck on this specific experiment, what they noticed was the students was um, intrinsically motivated, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because they realized that they can also do well. So it's not about them not having the intelligence. It's just a matter of them having to have the right, you know, learning tools, um, putting in effort, having good mentoring and teaching from their teachers. So this continuous intervention actually led to that kind of results, which was pretty much I thought that was very mind blowing. So yeah, I think pretty much that is the gist of that book.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. So because I believe that many people quoted growth mindset in terms of working setup, but
Mm.
you actually touch in terms of the relationships, in terms of parenting, and I believe from the examples, those are in poor schools. For example, teachers who actually work with students in rural area, they can actually do something, and we actually seen a lot of evidences already, even in Malaysia, when they actually focus
Yeah.
like Sekolah Amir, Yayasan Amir, who actually focus
Mm.
how to bring poor students into a more onto a different level so that they can compete when they actually move to a new environment, or they actually work in a new environment where competition is something that they need to face later on. So
True.
another
True.
things that I actually reflect when I listen to you is about we as a leader need to actually continuously learn also. And recently I remember meeting a coach, the leadership coach, a leadership coach, and he said that even when you want to coach a person, you also need to do some hard work, meaning you need to
Mm-hmm.
prep question, you need to prep a lot of things so that you really guide them to the output that you really want or that they want. So sesi tu dia tak jadi sesi yang sia-sia lah. But because normally what we used to know is kita nak buat coaching, kita akan macam know a set of question. Tapi kita tak prepare betul-betul kan. So the recent session on the leadership that I had, I think it's quite meaningful to me. It shows that to be a leader is not easy. You need to like maybe work more than 24 hours to make sure that you really develop yourself and you also develop your team members. Because
Yep.
otherwise, yeah, otherwise we can't grow, and the team can actually learn from each other.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Razin, probably in the beginning, yeah, you want to add something?
Yeah, because we were talking about leadership. So one thing that I think is very important for leaders, any leaders, household leaders, at work leaders, is the fact that, if we have the growth mindset, we will realize that we will also learn from our team members. It's not
Yeah.
just us teaching them and giving them, values, but it's also the other way around. And that can
Mhm.
happen, definitely can happen. And a leader with a growth mindset accepts that with open arms because they know they're learning
Yeah.
from that. But a leader with a fixed mindset, they may feel threatened about it, because they want to look smart all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And normally people or leaders yang with growth mindset, normally they're going to thank you for the feedback because
Yeah.
they know that they can actually improve the weaknesses that they have, because there is a blind part that they can't see, but others can see and help them to improve. Probably,
True.
Razeen, in the beginning you mentioned that you actually previously you had the fixed mindset, and currently you managed to somehow shift to the growth mindset. So would you mind sharing your life experience on how you change from fixed mindset to growth mindset? Was it hard, and how do you
Okay.
feel after you managed to convince yourself and embrace the growth mindset?
Okay, thanks for that question, Imat. I think before I directly answer that, I think I should share also that Professor Dweck also mentioned that there isn't a very clear cut fixed mindset person versus growth mindset person. Usually we do have a mix of both.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps in certain areas in our life we are more growth mindset, in other areas we are more fixed mindset. So usually it's a mix of both. And I think, at the point of reading this book, it was like 2 years ago. No, 2018. That was the first time I read this book. I think a lot of the areas in my life was skewed towards fixed mindset. And how did I, try to shift my mindset from fixed to growth? I think that the answer to this is really, it boils down to one thing. And this one thing is consciously having this inner voice inside my head
Mm-hmm.
that tells me what a person with a growth mindset would do in
Mm-hmm.
every single situation, no matter how difficult or how little they are. So it's really me having that conscious voice. So it's a conscious practice. You can never do this like go with the flow kind of thing. No, you have to consciously have that intention,
Mm-hmm.
have that effort,
Mm-hmm.
reminders in your head. I don't know, if you're a visual person, you have to put it on your wall or something. And that will really help. That helped in my case lah.
Mm-hmm.
Having this reminders every single time. For example, macam if I face a setback at work, I would just take a moment, take a deep breath, um, and just ask myself, what would a person with a growth mindset do? You know, it's okay to take a time out once in a while, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, what do you do next lah? How do you rise up and move on? And you just have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was transformational for me.
Wow.
Yeah, and I say that, I hope it's not, I don't think it's exaggerating, because I think in the past 2 years I had a lot of personal growth that I personally am proud of. They may be um, little to others, but to me it was like a big milestone for myself. Having tried new things, jump into challenges that I thought I wouldn't be able to do it in the past, but I could. Yeah. So yeah.
Congrats, Razina. I'm very happy to hear that.
Thank you. But let me just also put a caveat that, honestly, I'm still practicing this.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
I would like to get this mindset permanently like engraved in my blood.
Inshallah, inshallah. Because I remember, I think we were in Springboard leadership back then, right? Together,
Yeah.
and we learn when we have a growth mindset and we consciously think in any circumstances or in any challenges that we had, we are trained to take a step back and put all the challenges, all the problems into paper, and we think, what can we do? What can we do? So yeah, so this is something that I really learned and benefit from the previous course that we had together before, and this actually makes me more calm when we face the problem. And I think all of the problems that we think we can't solve can be solved. It's just that
Yeah.
the magnitude and probably the time taken to actually to solve that problem.
True, true, true. That's why I think, especially for educators or parents or just everybody who's teaching others,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to instill this mindset because we want to raise a generation of resilience. We
Mm-hmm.
want to have people who are resilient,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that was something that I knew I lacked before, like very much
Mm-hmm.
before. I really don't handle failures well, and I realized that it's something that we can instill in our children from the very young age, and that's very important. So yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Razin, probably, I think I learned a lot from you tonight, mostly in terms of the growth mindset things that can be applied in relationship, at works, and also for children. So, sorry, for parenting. So probably any last word, Razin, from you?
um hmm I would recommend people to read this book. If you do some googling, there is also obviously some criticism that comes with it. So, but just have a read, and if it works for you, it works for you. I think there is a reason why this book is being quoted by a lot of leaders out there. uh, you know, it was transformational for me, and I hope it will be for you too, especially the kind of domino effect that it will have, on others, on the people that you interact with on a daily basis,
Mm-hmm.
on your family, on your team at work, on your spouses, your parents. So yeah, it would have that kind of positive domino effect. So have a read and pass it on to others as well.
Thank you so much, Razin, for the last word. And yeah, people, please read the book. I think I've read too, and it's very life changing thing because I thought I also actually have a mix at the beginning where I read the book, but when I joined a course, at that point I already have the growth mindset. So it's actually helped me a lot to go through a lot of things in life. And probably I would say growth mindset is about putting a proper filter to our mind, to our life. So choose the right filter, and go and keep developing yourself. With that, I think I end this session today. Thank you so much, Razin. Inshallah, we're going to have you again in the Surya Baca sessions. With that, I end
Inshallah.
the session. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thanks, Imat. Assalamualaikum.
Thanks, Razin.